Hi there, it's Dylan with EatWild, and in this video we want to talk a little bit about, well, the two most common questions that I get asked as a hunting instructor and as someone who spends a lot of time hunting. And that is, a lot of folks ask me, what caliber rifle should I buy, and what type of rifle should I buy? This is an important question, obviously, because it's a big investment, and of course you want to make sure you've got the right firearm to go about your adventures hunting. There's a couple things before we get too far into it. We're going to talk about calibers first, and then we're going to talk about what rifle you should probably buy. So one thing you'll hear a lot about is you'll hear 7mm mag or 243 or 30-06 and 308. It's quite confusing because we're not using the same name or system for describing the different calibers between the firearms. This one is a 30 caliber bullet, and it's because it's 0.3 of an inch in diameter. This one here is a similar bullet, but it's actually 7mm wide. It's slightly narrower than this one. This one is measured in an imperial system as a part of an inch, whereas this one is measured in a metric system where we're measuring the diameter in millimeters. It makes it a little bit confusing, but once you hang out and do a bit of reading online, you'll kind of figure out the sort of the spectrum of diameters. The other part of it is the bullet weight. So this happens to be a 180 grain bullet, but for the purposes of what we're talking about, I just want you to understand that there's different weights and there's different diameters, which make up the options for the different types of bullets. And then just to reinforce, there's different size casings that you can mix and match with the different size bullets. So there's no end of literature and opinion on what's what. So we're going to talk about some specific calibers. The 243, this is a classic deer hunting gun, very low recoil, very comfortable to shoot. This one here is a 7mm 08. I'm going to include it because I'm kind of a fan of it. This one here is the 308, which I think is probably the most common cartridge in North America. This one here is the 30-06, which is increasing up in both size of bullet diameter as well as case here. And this is maybe the jack of all trades. It's capable of shooting moose and elk at distance and range. This is the 300 Win Mag, which is a very effective round for hunting elk, moose. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to pass the energy from the bullet that's traveling at a few thousand feet per second into the animal. For this to happen, for this bullet to mushroom like this, you need a certain amount of energy, and in my understanding, you need between 1,000 or 1,500 foot-pounds of energy for the bullet to perform, and that means for it to mushroom out like this. So the more energy you have, the more the bullet will dissipate shock into the animal. One of the questions you have to ask yourself is, what type of animal am I planning to hunt, and what type of conditions am I going to be planning to hunt in? If you're strictly a deer hunter, you can look down at this end of the spectrum for what might be the appropriate caliber. Whereas if you're going to be a moose hunter, or if you're going to be hunting caribou or elk, and you're anticipating longer shots given where you might be hunting, you may want to look towards a caliber such as a 300 that's got plenty of energy out at longer ranges. So this guy here, when this bullet leaves the gun, it's got like 3,500 foot-pounds of energy. That's a ton of energy. So at 100 yards, it's got almost 3,000 foot-pounds of energy. That's enough energy to kill a deer twice at 100 yards. With that excess energy, as it hits an animal, that energy is going to transfer into the flesh and the meat of the animal and cause more meat loss than you might want. Some of it can be avoided by a well-placed shot. Having said that, you've got twice as much energy as you need for the job that this one would do for a deer at 100 yards. On the other hand, this guy wouldn't be able to shoot a moose at 100 yards. Some of the options that you have in between are the 30-06, which has got enough energy for elk, moose, and deer up to 200 yards, I would say. More recently, I purchased a 7mm 08, which I've really enjoyed shooting because it's got a lot less recoil, and it's got a much more efficient amount of energy for deer out to 200 yards. And the majority of deer I shoot are well within 100 yards. The occasional deer is over 150 yards, where this 7mm 08 is super functional for that distance. In between these two is the 308, which really gives you the versatility of it's really a deer cartridge, out to 200 yards, and it still holds enough energy that you can use it to shoot moose out to about 200 yards. When I'm at the range though, I'll shoot this once or twice, and then I'll shoot my 7mm 08 or my 243. These are the guns that I enjoy shooting. I enjoy practicing with them because they have much less recoil. So I spend a lot more time honing my skills, practicing, building my confidence, shooting these lighter recoil rifles. I also have a 308, which I really enjoy shooting because it's got a lot less recoil. And the thing I like most about the 308 when I'm thinking about is that it's actually the most affordable of the spectrum here to shoot. When you're faced with the opportunity of shooting an animal, you're going to have a whole bunch of energy that's going to surface, and it's really great to be able to fall back into a place where you of confidence that you've built as a shooter, and that comes from practicing at the range on a regular basis. I can tell you right now, unless you're a whole lot tougher than me, you're not going to build up a lot of confidence shooting these higher caliber rounds. Whereas these ones down here, the 308, 243, 7mm 08, they're much more pleasant to shoot. So you're going to spend the time, enjoy shooting, and build up that confidence. And I think that's extremely important when thinking about a caliber. Some people ask you, well, which one is accurate? Which is the most accurate round? It's really up to you as a shooter that dictates how accurate your gun is. That's how well you've built up your technique, your confidence, and the repetition from going through that process. That's really what builds up accuracy. So any of these are going to produce excellent results for accuracy. Going towards the lighter firearms or the lighter cartridges are going to probably empower you to shoot more. The last thing I want to think about, or you guys are probably thinking about, is if I was just going to buy one cartridge, which one would I buy? Personally, to go down to one cartridge and caliber for you to purchase, I would land on the 308 because it gives you the most versatility. You can put a 180 grain bullet in it. You can shoot a moose out to 150 yards, perhaps 200 yards with the right bullet and load in there. It's also super affordable to practice and shoot a lot, and I think it's a really appropriate caliber for deer hunting. And if that's the majority of hunting you're going to do, that's the right caliber for you. Anyways, those are my thoughts on calibers. I hope you've enjoyed this little session. Next, we're going to talk about what type of rifle you should buy and some thoughts around that. Hope you enjoyed this.